praised by the foremost dolphin researcher and author John Lilly, Ilona Selke has greatly affected thousands of people's lives in Europe and now in America with her powerful work. Ilona's visionary work is an inspiring adventure that invites us to recreate our reality through accessing the wisdom of dolphins and the dimensions of dreamtime. Quoting Ilona, she says that the need for us to wake up and remember is growing each day. If we keep separating ourselves from the dreams we create by using our logical minds only, we humans may not survive much longer. So coming to us direct with the messages and insights from the dolphins of Hawaii, let's welcome Ilona Selke.
Good morning. I'm very touched and moved to be here at the Prophets Conference. I feel that the vision that Cody and Robin have perpetuated for all these years and hung in there, tooth, nail, and flipper, have been amazing. We've seen Robin and Cody go through some amazing transformations, near-death experiences, or actually clinically death, come back to the living to keep working. I'm sure they could sit on some beach somewhere and kick their heels up and not do anything, but instead they keep giving to the world their fabulous gifts of organizing and bringing fabulous people together that I've had a privilege to enjoy, like you, and people like you. Endless hours go into this kind of work, and it is amazing that after all they've been through, they're still doing it, and I'm very, very happy for the turnout and for the reflection of our populace that so many people are waking up. You know, for the fact that we are this many people, so many people are waking up. Thank you. I like that applause for all of us. Yes. I would like to start out, before I say any more words, with some flute playing to get us settled into an open-minded state. And while I'm playing some native flute, and it's a special flute that I heard for the first time at another Prophets Conference, and I said, I've got to have one of those. I'd like to invite us all to realize that we are co-creative, multidimensional, alive beings, and each one of us sitting here right now is inviting a particular field of consciousness, a particular awakening. And if you place yourself, while I'm going to play the flute, into a space of great expectancy, a space of what would happen if you got totally illumined to the degree that you would like to be illumined, like, you know, something you can feel in the back of your body, a feeling of, if the wildest dreams came true, how would I become? Who would I be? By going into that state now, by imagining how that would be if you already were there, you will help create the kind of field and the kind of things that draw into your consciousness, into your mind, beings from other dimensions that might assist you in your expansion. And by going into the space of the future fulfilled now, you effectively become a time traveler, and you invite the resonant field, the morphoenergetic field, right now into that space. So while I play flute, if you would, go into that space of great expectancy and create a sense of vibrancy in your soul, mind, and body, of being the super illuminated being that you know you can be. And you may want to close your eyes if you like. Make yourself comfortable. And start feeling the rhythm of the divine purpose within you. today my talk is quantum teleportation, and I'll take us through a whole gamut of what that might mean. The most exciting thing, would you like to have this mic down for the camera? It's fine like that? Okay. The most exciting thing that I've found in life is doing miracles and being in alignment with God. It's almost like life is designed to be in awe at creation. The beautiful nature creation. I mean, I've gone out to look at nature and said, this is some supreme being that has looked at this all and created gorgeous things and then created humans just so we can awe at it all. And I think that half of our job is to be in awe at life. And when you find yourself in a state of awe or gratitude, you typically find, thank you, you typically find that your state of being starts expanding. And as we expand in our vibrational field, we create a different reality. Different sets of laws start applying. I will talk to you about these concepts, and then we'll go into some practical exercises. See, the only thing I ever really remember of lectures is what people do with us. You know, the journeys, the drumming, the standing up and being in your vibration with Gene Houston and all that beautiful stuff. This is very tangible, and we can take it home, practice it. So we'll do some more of that this morning together. And I have some fabulous overheads that will convince us that the universe is really magical. So we'll have some left brain stuff, some right brain stuff intermixed. What I'd like to do, like right now as an experiment, just so we get going on with a nice footing here, is I'd like you to just look around the room and see, notice the colors you notice, the people, the shoes they wear, the walls, everything. Just take a look. There's some pretty neat people around, aren't there? And then I'd like you to, if you want, close your eyes for a moment and think of 3 things that you're grateful for in your life, right now, in general, at large. 3 things. And then, if you'd like, could you open your eyes again? And look around the room again. Just notice, how are you perceiving? How's it different? Can I hear just a few words from people probably up front, the volunteers up front, please? Joy? More joy? Warmth? More vivid? Brighter? Stunning? Loving, yes. Heart open. Magic? Yeah. I think they're representative of all of us, right? Those statements. Softer, brighter, warmer. And do you know what we just did? We just went into yet another subtle version of our dimensional living, up a notch or 2 or 3. You actually, when you go into a grateful space, you raise your vibration. A very simple exercise we can do for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I've done this on radio interviews. People have called me back a month later and said, I was an alcoholic, I'm no longer an alcoholic, and that's all because I did your gratitude exercise. So I think it could be good for all of us. It's something we raise our vibration with. And it's very important that we remember that the physical being that we are is not, it may look the same, but as you looked around, you might have noticed that the world looked slightly differently. And that slight little bit can be amplified even more and more until you start shining like a grand angel. And for those that might have eyes might see that. And then when you look around and you start seeing other angels, or you see the great shamans, or you see the great cosmic minds, and you meet the divine in others, and you start becoming a God divine being, like being. And of course I have days where I don't remember that so well, or moments, and then I have moments where I remember it really well. And of course, I feel better when I do remember who I really am, and I think all of us do. So the trick is, and I say, it's not, there's a German advertisement for alcohol-free beer. It's not, it says, I'm not drinking it always, but more and more often. So we don't have to be grateful always, but more and more often. You know, all the good things, more and more often, until it becomes a habit.
Can you tell me about your book? It's about the holographic universe and dolphins.
Yeah, my book, the title is Journey to the Center of Creation, and I wrote it to introduce the power of the magical mind of dolphins. And simultaneously in my life, the understanding of how the nature of the holographic universe worked happened at the same time. So it dovetailed, and it's a biographical story, very inspirational, uplifting, in which I document the power of telepathy, the power of creation with our mind at a distance, documented in enough stories, interwoven with techniques that by the time you're done reading, people say they fly like they're up there in heaven somewhere, and they have techniques on hand on how to enter into a quantum understanding of life, how to live holographically and make magic happen.
Now, can anyone be telepathic, or is that just a gift for some people?
That's a good question. I think some people are more capable than others. Some people have natural knacks for it.
Sure.
Some people are really good senders. Some people are good receivers. Some people are both. And yes, we can train it as humans. Actually, our right temporal lobe, specifically the Sylvian fissure of our brain, is associated with our intuition, ability to have telepathy, telekinesis, seeing things at a distance, and we know that nowadays we can train that part of our mind. You know, Jean Houston said that question, that passionate question that you need to find and ask. I thought, one time I had a very passionate question. It's like, what is God like? And I drove, in the beginning this was to see Don. I was 21 years old, and I drove up the mountains in Boulder, Colorado, and up 8,000 feet, and I looked out at the stars, and I thought, what is God like? And I went to sleep in his house. Maybe it had something to do with this cosmic dream. And I dreamt that night that God came to me. And God said, this is my form. And it looked like a big toroid. It actually really said that in my dream. And it looked like a big toroid. And it said, look, this is my body. This is my manifestation. I am the black hole and the white hole. The white hole expounds all energy. You know Greg Braden, how he said there's one part of the universe that's expanding, 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 and the other part that's contracting, contracting, contracting? Remember that slide? I got it in the vision of a toroid. So we have the white hole simultaneously creating the Big Bang over and over again, and the collapse of all of creation. And quantum physics have found out that the entire universe is made up of quantum foam. You and I are nothing but vibrating strings of quantum foam. Well, vibrating superstrings or quantum foam, different concepts from different theories, but generally the same vibration. So here we are, blinking off 50 billion times a second. Little black and white holes. All you are little black and white holes. You just happen to be in this configuration. And you know, in the parallel little slight version of yourself, you're maybe with another body in another galaxy, or you're sitting right here, but more illumined or less illumined. However the choices are, all possibilities might exist there. And somebody asked me, so how do we shift into these parallel universes? And I'd like to talk about that today. How do we do that? I'm one of those practical people. I like to see magic, you know, it's like, do it. That's the exciting part. So when we become aware that we really are blinking off 50 billion times per second in quantum foam, black and white universes, quantum foam stuff, you as consciousness can dip your cup, as Vern Wolf says, Dr. Vern Wolf. Much of my work is based on his work. Dip the cup in the quantum foam and make your choice. And the choice is by your passion, by your gusto of aliveness. And what do you want to create and who do you want to become? And most of all, if you glorify God in the process, you'll have lots and lots of support from the universe. God says, sure, well, more of that. We like that. You know, it's like a mirroring effect. God gets to see itself through our eyes. 500 years ago or so, 400 years ago, we had the concept that we had a flat Earth. A little longer maybe by now. And we could not do much more than go to the edge of the world and come back, because otherwise we would fall off. And I think at this point we then discovered that the Earth is round, and as a result of that, we were able to develop understanding of laws that allow for rotation of spheres around each other. The sun being the center of our universe, of our star system, and us rotating around it, was only understood after we understood about spheres. We could then start flying around planet Earth and understand the physical three-dimensional world as three-dimensional. And in understanding that, we could expand our understanding of life and the laws of life and nature better. And I believe right now we are at the brink, in our Western mind at least, to discover how we can activate our fourth-dimensional self. So we're not just three-dimensional beings that run around a circular globe, we're fourth-dimensional selves right now sitting here in the room. So I'm swimming with dolphins, and a friend of mine is in Kealakekua Bay and has been swimming with dolphins as well, and calls me up one day and says, Ilona, and this I write up in chapter 44 of my book, Ilona, I was swimming with dolphins and they were sending geometric images on the school of fish, and as soon as they made a sound, I saw this geometric image show up in the school of fish below me. Like their sounds were creating geometric patterns on the school of fish, like they would slightly flip the silver side of their bellies, and this geometric pattern showed up. And I saw a toroid, and I could not make head or tails out of it, but I have heard that you are into toroids. Could you tell me about the meaning of this? So I ponder back and forth. What is the meaning of dolphins showing her a toroid? Well, I said, I don't think they were trying to tell you to buy donuts. So let me ponder this. I'm finishing editing, oh no, the most important punchline. I'm glad I remembered. She said, it was as though the dolphins used the school of fish as an Etch-a-Sketch. Do you know what an Etch-a-Sketch is? Well, I didn't. I'm from Germany. I didn't know. We had those simple wax paper things, you know. Yeah. So here she describes an Etch-a-Sketch. It's one of those twirly things, you know, plastic thing, and I'm going, Etch-a-Sketch, oh, this is the advanced version of what we had. Grand. So I had to go see a dentist in Seattle after editing my chapter, and I'm driving off, and I'm pondering the meaning of the dolphins and the question of the toroids. And as I drive away from the dentist onto the freeway, onto I-5, from Olive Way onto I-5, and I have witnesses who've seen this after me. On this left side of the street, before getting to I-5, was a big billboard in the physical shape of an Etch-a-Sketch. Toroid would have been great, but it's getting there. Almost. Etch-a-Sketch. I said, the message of the dolphins on the Etch-a-Sketch. I wonder what it is. And what do you think flips up? You know, they put the messages on there. Now the interpretation of the toroid. Everything is sonic. Wow. That was awesome. I think that was magical. I went home, I said, Lorraine, I got the answer. Everything is sonic. But did you realize that by the time I read that chapter in the morning and edited it to the afternoon, they could have never built that whole Etch-a-Sketch? Do you realize that in quantum time they had to have built this months ago to show up right then in the moment that I had the question? It's an amazing universe. I mean, if we just get out of our local local time thinking and go into quantum thinking, the kinds of miracles we can have are instantaneous transformations. So usually I do it like this. I say, okay, I'm practicing right now. Oh, you know this morning? Oh, this is fabulous. I'm getting really good. I tell you, I've been practicing like this. An orange. An orange, please. But you know what? In the back of my mind, I think, I don't really want to see an orange. Because if I saw an orange pop up in my hand right now, I'd sign up to be my first student. I mean, I'd lay on my own feet. It's like See, our collective consciousness would say, she's going to be better than a saint. I mean, you know, we'll make her into a next Dalai Lama, Sai Baba, you know. I mean, my God, I don't think I could handle that. I'd rather not do that. So I don't really want an orange to pop up in front of public view. I mean, maybe even not even private view. Not quickly. Within 24 hours. So I'd like to ask you, what is your comfort zone for manifesting miracles? When would you shock yourself out of your own socks, and when are you still comfortable with having a miracle happen? This is a very serious question. And I'd like you to go home and ponder this. You have some time if you'd like. Maybe by Wednesday you can have decided if you are okay with 5-minute time intermission or 24 hours. I mean, some things may take a little longer, like 2 weeks or so. It's okay, like manifesting a house or something. But, you know, some people are okay doing that in 5 minutes. That's okay, too. But this morning I sat and I thought, you know, I'm going to mention that one because there's another story that I have usually tied into that. I said, if I manifested a flower when I opened my hand, I think I'd be okay with that. You know, that'd be nice. I've seen myself be a flower creator in my dreams. I think, you know, when I just accidentally reached back and did this, I was just about to reach out and have an orange in my hand and wanted to manifest a flower. I thought, this is getting pretty good, isn't it? See, I mean, we should remember that what we ask for is what we get. It may look normal to our eyes. I mean, after all, we will only accept normal realities. This is a very important statement. We only accept normal realities, except we're creating a little subgroup of miracle workers. And we have people in here, my husband is one of them, who I've seen heal a man walking on the crutches one day and not on the crutches the next day. And I said, stop that. They're going to find out about you. Scientists are now seeing, and especially in the shamanic journey world and psychological world, that if you take a small piece, and let's say we changed a black heart, maybe a sad heart, into a radiant red heart that's vibrant and pulsing, what do you think would happen to your larger world? What would happen to the larger picture of that holographic plate? If you changed the small part, what effect would it have on the large part?
The whole would, and that's why I guess it's kind of a hard concept to understand, because if we're all out there manifesting, how does that affect the whole, since we all have to interact with each other?
Right. People say, you know, I have gone on airplanes, or before, let's say in my book I write about how there's an announcement and they're saying, sorry, the airplane broke down, we have to stop the whole thing, can't go for hours, maybe days, who knows. And I sit down and I go into a heightened state, into a quantum shamanic state, and I go high enough to see the airplane below me and the entire, you know, this, what's wrong. And I see the energy field, in this case it was around the fuselage, shifting. Like suddenly the field of the energy of the plane is whole again.
Right.
15 minutes later they're doing an announcement and they're saying, oh, by the way, the airplane got magically fixed and we can take off in 5 minutes. You know, we can start boarding in 5 minutes. So that's the holographic concept. Now people come up to me and say, now is everybody in that airplane ready to be on time, or shouldn't it have been late?
How does that shift? You know, maybe there's another reason it was supposed to be late. So if we change these things, do they impact other people?
Very good question. And what do you think, if I ask that same question for you for a dream, where maybe you dreamt being on an airplane, maybe you dreamt that you changed the airplane in your dream, and all the passengers on your dream airplane are now on time. Would you laugh at me if I said, well, what about all the other passengers? Maybe they were supposed to be late. What would you say?
I'd like to think that they all agreed to be on my dream airplane.
Well, they did. They showed up.
They showed up?
It's like a mutual resonant field, and we do not, some of us do not live in a certain reality. It's like we only interface when everything fits.
Right.
And we think very linearly normally, and we think, okay, there's an airplane, there's so many people, they all need to be on time or late or whatever. Are all the people changed? Here they did an experiment with the MRA machine, and they took oils from flowers, and these are the yellow ones, the daisies. And they took the oil water of the daisies, put it in the, oh, I have this fancy pointer that I left, put it in an MRA, aromatherapy oil, and put it in a vial of water, and then took the water, I'll be back. See, I have got one of those. Transferred it into the vial of water via a magical teleportation device. It's radionic-like in nature, the MRA. Put the information in water, froze the water, and took a picture of it. Isn't it amazing how the essence is so similar to the picture of the flower? The water reflects the oil essence into the water. This is from flower to oil to water, from water to frozen crystal. Can we see just one more sample of that? It's done with another kind of flower, just so you don't think all snowflakes look the same. This is Schapsgabe, I think, whatever you call this in English, fennel. Yellow. Look how this is similar. Isn't this amazing? It doesn't look like the daisy water, does it? They did the same process. They put the essence of the flower into oil, into water, froze the water, took a picture. All right. Now, I'd like to see the picture of the, yeah, and you know what? I'd like to just mention, no, how about that one? What if we had a way, no, not yet. What if we had, thank you, Don. What if we had a way to teleport information from here to the moon, from here to the other side of the planet? And let's say we did it with plants. Let's say we could send the information of fertilizers. You're here in America and you can send information of fertilizers to a field in Germany. And the farmer there doesn't have to buy fertilizers. Lo and behold, his plants grow without fertilizers. Simply because you know how to teleport fertilizer. What business that would be. Well, what a different world that would be, wouldn't it? What do you think? Plants can grow without fertilizer. That would be awesome. I think we should tell everybody about it. Could I see that? Thank you. They did an experiment. You know, they do have a device. I'll show you an institute that's using some of it. They hooked up a plant to an EEG device, drove this instrument 50 kilometers away, and measured the time that they turned on the instrument right here. This is the time. And then they measured, it's upside down. Oh, sorry. Turn it upside down. Yep. Well, actually, it was it's fine. Turn that side upside down like that. You just wrote it. Yeah, otherwise. Okay, it's the same picture. All right. That's why it looked the same. You know, you can turn reality upside down and you still have the same reality. All right, so here they're measuring the EEG effects of the plant, its beating heart, and then they turn on 50 kilometers away a machine, and you know what they did? They took a sample of the plant, stuck it inside the machine, like similar to the one we just saw with the aroma oils, and turn it on and send the plant vitalizing energy, like maybe something like a fertilizer or like extra boost of sulfur, who knows what the plant likes. And guess what the plant did right then? Oh, it liked it. You see, plants are amazing. We can hook up EEGs to plants, and 50 kilometers away already, they teleported information to the plant. That was good. The plant was at least sensitive enough to pick up the intention, if nothing else. We don't know yet if the plant grew bigger, but at least the plant knew we were doing something. All right, now let's see that one, yeah. Now Don got one of those. We went on a wild quest 13 years ago through the desert, 14 years ago now, and said, there's something we're looking for. For 6 weeks, we slept in the desert and we had this vision that there was this device, this thing, this teleportation quantum device that we would find. We had no clue it existed, but we knew, Don knew for sure, that somewhere in the future there would be this device that he would find now that would enable us to do time travel. That's what we wanted. We wanted to do time travel. We had spent weeks hypnotizing ourselves into time traveling and met Einstein on the inner dimensions and figured out all sorts of secrets and went on this vision quest, slept in the desert for 6 weeks, and guess what happened? We found one of those devices. Really, we did. So after a while, we needed to do experiments. Can this really do some magic? So Don said, you know, seeds. We cannot fool seeds. I mean, placebo effects with seeds of plants will not work. So he planted in Hawaii. We lived half the year in Hawaii. He planted 10 seeds in a row of trays and had them watered with sunlight, grow them the normal way. Right next to it, he planted another row of seeds. But these seeds were impregnated with a quantum device, with the information to make these seeds grow fabulously into huge plants, you know? No fertilizer needed, but huge. We needed big demonstration here. You know, and then we let it grow and watered them all. They were in the same 2 rows, so there was the same watering can we used for both rows, same greenhouse, same light. 28 days later, we dug them out, made a picture. Those that you can hardly see are the ones that we didn't treat. You see those? Can you see that? Can you lower that picture for a moment? Can you see those little wiggly 28-day-old seeds there? I mean, we didn't tell them they were ugly or anything. We just watered them, kind of forgot who was who. Can you see them? I'd like to hear. Okay, good. Because they're almost hard to see up front. Can you see those? Whoa. Now, 28 days later, these were the normal seeds. These we had quantum impregnated with thoughts of, you have all the food and nutrition and light and love you need. What do you think? Pretty amazing, yeah? You can do this with lakes. We can do this with anything. Do you know that farmers are actually using these devices in the Midwest, in America? They've been written up in Mother Earth magazine in the 1970s. Did you know about that? Good. Some of you do. I'm hearing about some yeses. But the majority of our civilization does not know about it. Do you know why? Well, 2 reasons. One, the pharmaceutical companies like selling fertilizers. They make more money that way. You know, one of those machines isn't much compared to 1 year's worth of fertilizer. The other one is, a lot of people say, couldn't be. That must be a fake hoax, can't be. You know that things don't come out of thin air. Well, I mean, we just all know that, right? Just like we all know we can't do all sorts of things. But we have people in the room here who can levitate. We do. We have some personal experience with them. So just like they can levitate, and did you know in China, they know how to levitate. But it's because their grandfather knew how to levitate, and their father knew how to levitate. So for the son, it's quite natural to levitate too. You know, because if your grandfather could levitate, he's normal. You can be normal too, so of course you start levitating. But in a culture where we typically don't levitate much, we don't really want to be different. I write about another experience where we were late in Germany on a train, and where by looking at every clock at every train station, we're getting later and later and later. But I was supposed to be picked up by somebody who I didn't have a phone number for, or I didn't have an address for. He just moved, and we said we're going to meet at 1 o'clock under the big clock in Stuttgart in the train station. So the train is late. He has to go to a rehearsal afterwards. I know that. We may be missing him. We'll most likely miss him.
Right.
So I do this imagery transformation thing, and realizing that the small part of me and the small universe I represent in my feeling body is creating a change in the large holographic plate. So I talk about techniques of how to shift I call it the toroid, the black hole into the white hole. Great theories around the fact that we can shift realities by focusing on what it is truly that we want. So I communicated with body feelings and images, and what I wanted was be on time. So I got the end result of the picture of what I wanted, and I got the image of being on time, meeting our friend. Well, I was very mad and angry for the delay, and now I felt much better.
I think
And
we can just shift our attitudes is kind of what you're saying, too.
Well, this was great. I shifted my attitude. I was happy.
Right.
We got out of the train. We took our stuff out. I'd looked at all the watches, and we were later and later and later. Then we stood under that big watch, and Don said, well, let me go, my sweetheart, my husband, said, let me go and find and see if our friend is walking around. Our friend then comes up to us, sees Don, and says, Don and Ilona, you're early. How did you manage? I look at the big clock, and suddenly the big clock is like 50 minutes earlier than it was a minute ago. We do not have time zone changes in Germany. It was in August, not in October, where we have that hour change. There was no logical explanation whatsoever.
Well, I have heard that time can really be understood as nonlinear and that we can collapse time, that it's really kind of an illusion.
Yeah. And your question earlier was, what about this holographic universe? If we know that we, with our consciousness, create a quantum collapse of the field energy that we think is solid reality every minute of the day.
Really?
Every choice we make. And some of it is guided by our subconscious and by our unconscious programming. But when you learn how to raise and walk in two worlds, and raise your spirit and hold the presence into another dimension, and you create a different field energy, and then from there you open the curtain in the dimensional 3D reality, and you make a choice. And imagery is one fabulous way of pre-creating the future. While I was at the Monroe Institute, I had the pleasure of absolute awe-inspired pleasure of hearing Joe McMoneagle. Joe McMoneagle is one of the top 6 remote viewers that has worked in top secret events and experiments with the government, and he related the following story, which is something that really deeply impressed my subconscious, and I went home and said, I can do that too. He was invited to participate in an experiment where 4 psychics were invited, including himself, to influence a random generating computer-generating, number-generated photon shooting device that shoots photons onto a photographic plate. The photographic plate would then reflect all the places where the photons landed, and this random generator was programmed to reflect the image of a diamond. So, as machines have it, the diamond actually showed up every time, meaning that all the photons that hit, although they were randomly generated, one here, one here, one here, one here, after a long time generated a solid diamond-shaped image on the photographic plate. Then the psychics were invited and said, why don't you influence the computer? You know how it is when you work with computers? If you get mad at them, they shut down. Well, they asked them to influence the random generation of numbers to produce occasional blips in the orderly, organized photons, so that photons would fall outside of the diamond shape as well as inside. Got that? So they were supposed to influence this machine to make the photons fall outside of the predetermined pathway. Guess what happened? They did it. Each one in their own way, focused, trying to talk into the computer, trying to visualize, trying to be peaceful, trying to see the future already manifest now. Whatever method they used, they coerced, so to speak, the computer into generating photons outside of the photographic plate. That's great already for us to know, right? You can talk to your computer, spit out that document now, and I don't even want to have to write it. I like that one. So then they did a doubly curious experiment. They said, let's roll up the first image where it was nice and orderly, placed in the diamond shape. Wait, just put it on there. You can't roll it up. That one. They said, let's take that and put it in a time capsule, and let's not tell anybody what the experiment is. For 6 months, they hid this pretty picture, and they hadn't looked at it. They did double-blind studies. They didn't know what the image was really like, and they rolled it up. 6 months later, they invited Joe McMoneagle, and they said, talk to that computer 6 months ago and make that computer generate images outside of this diamond shape. Do you understand? He had to go back 6 months in his mind, go to the computer and talk to the computer and say, change your direction, change the formula that is predestined, predetermined. And what do you think happened when they opened the time capsule? Lo and behold, they found photons outside of the predetermined path. What would you do differently in your life if you could go back a year, 2 years, 10 years, 6 months, and could re-envision this past or another past? You could practically change the lakes into healthy lakes if we were convinced enough. Now, Joe McMoneagle has seen his own solutions, his own magic at work. Now, we all can go and make this magic happen. What he actually says is, you go into the future, pre-create the future, and the future, by focusing on the future, you will create the future now. He said, even though there is a probability for certain futures to come, he's oftentimes asked to do remote viewing drawings of events where they do random generations of pictures. And he sits down when he gets invited to the show 2 months earlier and draws the picture of what he's going to see. Then 2 months down the road, they pick randomly out of a choice of 5 images that they're generating that week only. And they pick one of those 5 images that they choose, and he already knew which image they would decide to pick 2 months into the future. Now, could I have this image? Now, what does that have to do with you and me? And how can we practically make sense out of all this? We all are endowed with a physical body. Maybe I'll need this pointer some more. We're all sitting here in a 3D world, and we might accelerate our vibrations into higher dimensions. But how do you do it? Gratitude is one exercise we just did, right? How about another one? We took classes this springtime, and we've been practicing this down since the 70s, me since the 80s when I turned 20, of placing your focus above your head into a focal point, a star. Essentially, it is not a question of space, but when we perceive space or expansion or refinement into space, it appears as though we refine our vibration and focalize. You know, like a regular light bulb of 100 watt would not necessarily do as much as a laser light. A laser light you could cut steel with of 1 inch thickness if you focused 100 watts in a laser light beam. So if you start focusing your energy, it's one of the techniques, one of the many versions of harnessing energy in the universe. If you become coherent, the stronger your coherency is, the more effective you're going to be. Well, one thing that happened to me in April of '91 was I had a dream where I was shown 3 times in a row that there was going to be a solar eclipse and spaceships would come, and they said, now look, pay attention. I said, okay, I'm paying attention. And they landed on Earth, and they came to a big, probably 10 million people city kind of thing in the desert, and landed and started infiltrating the human minds. And then landed, we were also very at awe at the grass. I remember that in my dream. On and on. I didn't know that a solar eclipse was about to happen in July of that year. And was very surprised when 2 years later I was sent videos from the Mexican television that showed the fact that they had actually filmed these, well, one spacecraft anyhow. In my dream, there were several, a fleet of them. What I always puzzled at was, I had this dream and I told this publicly at a seminar in April, I think 6th of 1991. The solar eclipse happened in July, on July 11th. I did not know about it. Then 2 years later, I was given the information about the spaceships being filmed publicly. This must have been an event that was broadcast by which other beings these may be on the internal planes, since I dreamt of it ahead of time, and it was intentionally like placed, okay, watch, pay attention. There was a lot to it in terms of what their intentions were with Earthlings and so forth, but it seems to, I always puzzled at that. It's like, nevertheless, what has really changed publicly in Mexico, what has changed in America, in sightings it was placed publicly, it is, I think we're being invited to realize that there is an interdimensional reality we're needing to shift into. The universe is very exciting. Once we can learn to use our multidimensional bodies, you don't have to leave this space. You can be in Africa and meet your beloved kangaroo there. No, that would be Australia. You know? Don was my beloved camel in one of my lifetimes. You know, that's when I was married to who knows who with 10 children, and I couldn't have a lover without getting stoned, so we had a loving relationship. He snuck in there. He said, I don't care. I'll be your camel. I'll be every day with you. The very funny part was that a woman, Bettina Clemens, an awesome flautist, travels worldwide. When her and I met, and I've been, because she's well known, I've been keeping an eye on her for 20 years. I have seen her advertisements. I've watched her grow up. But Don knew her when he was 19. Really, he wanted to marry her, but she was 5 years older. So that didn't work out so well, luckily. So anyhow, her and I meet, and we look at each other, and it's like, and we go into our star body, and then we keep going. And we go, oh my God, I feel like I'm you. Do you know that one day, because on the cover of one of her CDs, she's there dressed up as an Arabic woman with a camel. I said to her, you know, Don was my camel lover in another lifetime. And she said, I can't believe it. That's exactly what I saw when I saw Don. You know, I don't think Don looks like a camel anymore. Except the glimmer in his eyes. But the most amazing part was she remembered the same past life, another one, where her and I had the same story. And I look at her, do you know what? She lives in a geodesic dome until last year, she did. I live in a geodesic dome. She's a flute player. I also play the silver flute. She dresses like me, I dress like her. She's German, I'm German. We both love Don. He almost wanted to marry her, unbeknownst to her. And we both love Don as a camel. You realize this universe is amazing. We shared the same body, her and I, and now she is a fabulous flute player. I wonder what that means. Incidentally, there are a lot of similarities, but it's really nice. We still look at each other. And she says, Ilona, I think you're the better half of me. And I look at her and I go, oh my God, how could you say that? You know, we're the Mutual Admiration Club. So it's really amazing to meet people who you've shared bodies with. You know, we're not just one body. We probably have several running around on this planet, depending on our fancies and who we are. And maybe one is 100 years ahead of our evolution. You know, and it's still us. What an amazing concept. So, if we focus our attention right here, above our head, more than once a day, maybe, twice a day would be really good, or maybe as often as you want, you start, and maybe you already do this, anyhow, we start living and walking in two worlds. Literally, you can then extend that and run that laser beam light up really high. And imagine, if you go, let's go and shoot our lines up to the stratosphere. Do you realize that the information that's encoded energetically, we see it as dimensional space of going through the layers in the sky. Let's say this is the stratosphere up here. Those are stars. That's the atmosphere around the planet. And you are up there in your consciousness. And you operate from up there. You know, you take your ball of light, your luminescence essence, and you start operating from high up there and you rotate fields, what effect do you think you might have on planet Earth? If you imagine a cone of effectiveness of light, this is kind of three-dimensionally depicted, versus the cone from down here, which one do you think can create more effective change? The higher one, yes, 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 somebody, good, 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 thank you, thank you. Well, of course, we can't always walk up there, otherwise we might not get all our work down here done, but it is good to have that option. You know, this is where the angels, the big angels, work, sometimes outside the planet. So if you tap in up there and rotate the fields, you start seeing results and changes down here on the physical. I work with some angelic beings and rotate fields with them, and then I hear from the other side of the planet. I decided, Jimmy can attest to this, I said, Jimmy, I want to be in Australia. And he was going last year in August. We saw each other at the Prophets Conference, and he was going in September. I said, I want to go to Australia and do seminars. I think they're really ready. And I was working with Archangel Michael inwardly. And I said, I'm ready. Send me. And I worked at that level of frequency up there. I got an email in the mail, and they said, oh, if you would like to come to Australia and do a seminar, we'd really like to have you. Maybe you... And I just bought a ticket to fly to Australia to do a visit over there. But I was just going to visit someone. And lo and behold, there's somebody who's inviting me for the seminar, and I'm writing back. I don't think so, because I'm really too busy. I'm going to be on a vacation. But I didn't send the email, luckily. I slept that night, and in the morning I woke up, and this voice from heaven said, you've got to be kidding. I mean, don't you get it? Oh, I was so glad I hadn't sent that email. I immediately, you know, it's amazing with the internet. You can just rewrite your letter, and it looks like you never wrote the other one. Quantum shift. And I said, gladly I accept. Just get me 40 people, and I'll do it. Which, of course, they did. And a couple of weeks later, I was in Australia doing the seminar. And incidentally, one of the ladies is now teaching dropout high school kids or at-risk kids who are suicidal. She's teaching the Living from Vision course, teaching people step by step. We do a teacher training program in Hawaii and elsewhere in the world. And we have trainers all over the world now, in Europe and in Asia and in South Africa and in South America, where they're training people to use the imagery skills step by step. And we have video training courses on that as well, but she's taking it to teenagers, and she's teaching them to create their inner place of peace, their higher self, how to create the future fulfilled now, how to live in their higher purpose. And guess what happens with those kids? They blossom. The one child that had never talked to his mom about anything meaningful since he was 8 years old, now at 14, ready to kill himself, after the first class, turns to his mom and says, do you know, I really feel like I'm ready to talk. He, over 5 weeks, transformed from a geek, from a kid that was ugly and had these big frame glasses and wouldn't talk to another kid, to working to give volunteer time to the cancer research, collecting money, decided he wants to become a pianist, takes lessons, and the teacher thinks he's better than her. Yes, this is really true. It's on the internet. She sent me the testimonial of the boy, and so the story is on our internet site, livingfromvision.com. So at any rate, so now he runs around with a mission, with a purpose. He can talk. The teenagers are blossoming only because we're teaching them how to connect to their intuition.
Now, how can dolphins help us with some of this evolutionary process? It seems like they know these things.
They know, and they have actually developed larger brains. 25, the bottlenose, the flipper lookalike dolphins, have about 25% more brain mass than the humans do. And they have developed more neocortex convolution, greater sense of frontal lobe development, all the stuff. What they do with their energy is be telepathic. They can work with you at a distance. Lots of people, after reading my book, know how to telepathically unify and have energy from the dolphins, work healing people with that energy, work with getting insights, or magical coincidences that when they show up at the ocean, the dolphin shows up. So the way I think dolphins function for us right now in our society is to be a symbol of evolution, a sense of we have intuitively, we sense there's something that made it. That is where we still want to go.
Right, and they can be teachers.
And whether you know it or not, you know, if you take a master, a saint in your mind as a goal to go towards, there's something inside of you that tries to adjust and become like that being. So dolphins function as that, as an energy attraction for us to expand our hearts and our spirit. We were out on a boat with dolphins in Florida. We swim mostly with dolphins in Hawaii. We're living on the big island. There are 2 coasts you can swim with dolphins. Kealakekua Bay is one of them, and Kahana Beach is a nude beach where we live nearby, where all the hippies live, and that's where we go swim with dolphins a lot. And one time I was swimming with dolphins, one time we went the last day of April last year before we did our Europe trip, seminar trip. I left all the gear on board at home because I thought, well, I don't want to go in the cold water. I want to stay healthy. I have a whole month to teach seminars. Don can go, and I'll just sit on the beach. But the dolphins were so close. I was sitting here on the beach, and maybe as far as the 4th row in, the dolphins were. I was really close. I mean, so close, I felt like I could just jump in and touch them. And I felt like, had I just brought my gear, you know, snorkel, fins, wetsuit. And Don went out, you know, and sometimes in our minds we can experience another reality by piggybacking onto somebody else's mind. So I thought, what a fabulous idea to make sure the dolphins find Don. You know, it's like, so I go in my mind and I go into ecstasy. They love ecstasy. So if you go into ecstasy, they're much more likely to join with you, where you have to kind of go to that upper space, right? So in my mind, I go and find the dolphins, and I swim in, and I piggyback on one of the dolphins. And I go, oh, you know, over there is my beloved, it's Don. And I imagine being the dolphin, spiraling around and looking at Don's eyes. And lo and behold, suddenly I'm seeing the image of Don's eyes staring back at me, through his goggles, no less. I'm going, wow, there are blue eyes. And I'm feeling this incredible sense of love as I look at him. And this awe, and I'm going, this isn't a normal feeling. I mean, I have a lot of love for him, but this was like gigantic love. I mean, this was like superb awe at the honor of connecting with this being that I normally have when I look at dolphins, or even bigger. And I'm looking at Don, and we're exchanging love. Me as a dolphin, Don as Don. What a great fantasy I had, right? So I'm sitting there. I'm in bliss. I don't care if I didn't swim with dolphins physically. I had my experience. I was a dolphin. I had become a dolphin. I looked at Don. He looked at me, and we were in love. Don comes out of the water, and guess what he tells me? A dolphin had singled out from the pod and come up spiraling to him, looked him in the eyes, and stayed locked in that place of swimming together in awe. And this tremendous field of love had evolved between them. And there was this envelope that they just stayed in, the suspended amazement of love. He confirmed the vision that I'd had, right? I piggybacked onto a dolphin. I was out on the water. I didn't have to be in the water to have a fabulous experience. What if we piggybacked on some amazing angels? You know, we don't need to be just one human. We can be anything. We can be piggybacking into God consciousness, you know? So what happened is when we were on the boat in Florida, and I'm telling you a lot of dry land experiences because a lot of us don't have a chance to actually physically swim with dolphins. And if we could, it's a fabulous experience. If you have a chance, I would really recommend it. There are some fabulous people that put on swims. I do a lot of, I'm doing some with particularly my German readership because the book is doing fabulously over there. And so naturally, you know, we do a German group. So in Florida this next summer, I'll be again on that same boat. And we went out, and I know the group of dolphins there by name. And Sweetheart was one that I really loved. But this day, normally we meet about 8 dolphins on average. In the morning trip, let's say a 4-hour trip, we're 6 people on the boat. We go out and take turns swimming with about 8 dolphins. Here we are on the boat, and we don't see a dolphin for an hour. It's getting desperate. I'm starting to meditate. Yes, there is an answer, there is a dolphin. And Sweetheart shows up, alone, a single dolphin. And I say, oh, we are 6 people, 1 dolphin. It's way too many people. Couldn't you go home wherever the others are and bring back your family? Sure, he says, I'll be back in 15 minutes. Off he goes. And everybody's like, oh no, the only dolphin we saw and found, he even left us now. I mean, what are we going to do now? 15 minutes later, he brings back his mom, his sisters, his brothers, Nick, Grandy, Orion, bunches of his family members, Longtoss, Spur, Hatchet, the ones that we know. And we have a fabulous dolphin swim. Oh God, there's so much I could share. So, on another trip, I did a meditation and I said, what if we all just became these stars of light, like we just did? So maybe we can do this collectively again. Go back into that space of being your luminous star in a focused way. And know that we collectively hold a field here together, a quantum invitation to the divine. And as we sat on the boat, I sat in meditation. One other person sat in meditation. Don was off to my right, also meditating. He picked up, we kind of pick up on each other. And he held that field. And we both held that heightened field. And I started seeing all of us being like a string of lights together in a circle. And if we made a sea of lights right now and hovered, either in this room or above, in space, as luminous lights, could we see each other? Could you start making out other stars here from the conference and say, might be nice to meet you? That's how I make my appointments inside. I go. So, if we are the stars of luminous light together, that's what I imagined on the boat. And suddenly, out of the blue, to the right of the boat, we have, would you mind putting that on? Thank you. We have a group of dolphins appear. They are swimming in a rather odd formation. They're not swimming in the normal up and down manner. They are forming a circle by either sticking out part of their body, the fluke, the fin, the flippers, some part, their nose. And as they're forming a circle of about 15 dolphins, the captain is saying, oh my God, I've never seen that. And I open my eyes, and there are these dolphins in a perfect circle. Kind of dotted, like that. You see? Like that. They even made a painting out of it. And I thought, oh, of course, they are star beings too, so why don't I imagine that they too create a circle, a bead of light together as a circle. And I imagined the group of dolphins creating a circle together. And to the left of the boat, suddenly, out of the blue, the captain says, oh, there's another pod of another about 12, 15 dolphins. Oh my God, I've never seen this. I have witnesses in Germany and here in the room, people who were there who saw the same thing. It's a real story, even though when I tell it, I go, oh my God, this wasn't a dream, right? This was really real. Yep, in 3D physical reality. 2 groups of dolphins swimming in a circle. Swimming in a circle that you don't see them ever do in real life. I mean, they swim up and down like this, side by side. That's how fast they are with their telepathy. There are moments of windows of opportunity, and this was one of them. And then I thought, and we might do this together. Now we were a circle of dolphins. And, do you see these? These are like angels, like us in the circle, and then there are clouds. But if we created a circle, a vast circle together of light beings, can you imagine that? Can you be in that space? I'd like to invite us to, as best as we can, focus our attention and be in a formation of light together. And I imagined at that point that we all created one star the dolphins and the humans, as if we came together into one luminous star, like if you took this picture and made one essence out of the dolphins and the humans. And we might do that. We might in our minds invite either the presence of dolphins or angelic beings or whoever else is your highest version that you can tap that still has some recognizable energy form for you. And if we created a unity in that space, and from there radiate onto this planet. Somebody asked me, what do dolphins really like? And I've gotten the message that we need to emulate that vibrational field of unity consciousness. And we can do this through our mind, our imagery, our brain translates the information through images or feelings, different parts of our brain. Guess what happened in the physical with the dolphins? And while I did that imagery, the two circles started to join and made one large circle. It is like beyond belief for me even to think that that really happened, and it did. Right, Don? Yes, there you go. They made one circle, probably in response. And I'm not sure who was the apple or who the egg or the chicken. Were they thinking ahead of me and I was simply picking up in my imagery what they were projecting? So here we are creating a unity with the dolphin consciousness or the angelic consciousness and the human one. All of us collectively. They love us uniting in our minds. And even though we were on the boat, another woman had started having the same meditation, the same imagery, and the same sensations. We went into a space of ecstasy. Plus, when people swim with dolphins, they just open their hearts, they start living their purpose, they become more psychic, they oftentimes get involved with sound, music, something like that.
Well, that sounds beautiful.
Yeah, and they evoke in us a deep sense that there's something mystical beyond our manipulation of matter that we did with our hands. See, they receded their hands into flippers, but their mind is into, and heart is into energy and love. They've been known to do telekinesis, telepathy, healing at distance, amazing feats.
Wow.
That if we practice opening our intuitive mind and walk with that heightened energy, the chi energy, or that heightened awareness. And you can simply do that by visualizing a point above your head of light and just connecting to that. And knowing that this point of light is also looking, that it's part of you. That I can see you as that being. And you can see me. And I'd like to do an experiment for all of us so we can take that home, where we can maybe put on some nice music right now. That's the CD music. And I'd like to do a guided imagery with us, for which you can prepare yourself by making yourself comfortable in your chair. And in your mind or heart, think of a being that you would like to love and join in love very deeply. This could be a physical or non-physical being. Your supreme divine beloved. Could be a dolphin, your cat, your child, your beloved. Choose one such being. And then in your mind, if you could go to a beautiful place of peace, place you may have been before in the physical or in your inner worlds, or one you could make up now. And just feel yourself in that space of beauty. And right here in that beautiful, peaceful place, can you call forth the essence of your highest self. The presence of who you really are at your most evolved state. Who you'd really like to become. Notice the feeling, the colors, the emanations that your highest potential has. And then I'd like you to say your own name to your inner self, to yourself inside, and step inside that radiance, your true essence, and look out at your universe from this perspective and this feeling. And now, I'd like you to invite another being that you'd like to love more deeply or experience a very deep closeness with into your sacred space. And invite them in their highest essence to you, to join you here. Let them connect with you from their true heart and their true spirit. Noticing their radiance and the warmth that you both have together. And now, if you'd like, I'd like to ask you, for both of you, to imagine that you have a beam of light coming out from the top of your head, or your essence of where your head might be, the top of your being. And both of you can project, travel out along this beam of light, out, up, and up into high space. And as you keep going up, I'd like you to check in with your other being that you've chosen to be closer with and just sense how they might shape differently or form differently as you go higher and higher. How is their energy feeling to you as you might peek across at the same time you're journeying upward? Going up. You might notice that you're getting closer, that the beams are getting closer to each other. And just notice what starts happening, what starts to happen as you keep going higher. And if you'd like, let those two beams, in whatever shape or form they're interacting now, join at one point. And notice what the purpose is for your being together. And what truly happens when you join your essences into oneness. And then you might be wanting to expand into infinity forever, but could I ask you to both start coming back onto your rays of light, coming back. Thanking each other from your hearts of your essence for the beautiful presence and present you've made each other. Until you come back into the presence of your highest self. And you might look at the high self of your beloved, the being of your choice, and thank him or her or it for the presence in your life and the love that you can share. Becoming aware again that you can bring that essence back into this room. Being aware of being yourself in your various stages of being as a high luminous state of oneness, as a high self, as a physical body in this dimension of 3D reality, on a chair here in this room. Bringing with you that presence. And I would like to invite us all to keep that current going throughout our life, the next days. And when you come home and step into your home, can you remember of who you really are and the beloveds and their beingness and the love that they share with you and who they truly are? Maybe some of them live with you at home. Remember that when you see them. And that in very sacred moments you can maybe share with them this exercise. You can sit the two together. If it's a physical person you've chosen, if it's a child or an adult, maybe you can do it together and share with each other what you experienced. And you might come back, we can turn the music off, start wiggling your hands and toes and take a deep breath. And stretch, and yawn.
Now, where can people buy your book? Is it on your website or is it in most local bookstores?
Yeah, it has been New Age bookstores, Barnes & Nobles, had Borders. You can definitely order it through them, Amazon.com. You can order it from online at livingfromvision.com. And also the courses, you can take a look at our schedule of events, teacher trainings. We train teachers in Hawaii to teach the Living from Vision course. And we have teachers in the Latin American countries, Mexico, Germany, Switzerland, France, Canada, Africa, Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, all over the world right now. So it's a fabulously growing wave of people waking up right now.
Well, it sounds like the holographic world is a great place to live in.
It is, it's magical. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. When they went into the union space, how many people felt like they could sense that presence of union? Could I see a show of hands? Whoa, 80%, this is awesome. Good job, guys. What did you, well, you know, I would love to hear our stories, but because we're running out of time and I'm already over, who experienced a sense of doorway to heaven, to God? Can I see a show of hands? Good job. This is about 40%. I would say that union is one major vehicle to get into the presence of the heightened states of consciousness that we can experience through love, a doorway into God. And I hope that you can practice this. This is, I took 2 human beings and had them drawn up. You know, this is one of my creative manifestation instant things. I said on the flight over here, I said, I know I have to draw this up, but if I'm going to do it, it's going to be stick figures. I wonder if it wouldn't have been better if last year when the cartoon drawer that came to my house would have made me an overlay. And so I thought, well, too bad I didn't ask. You know, it would have been really nice to have a cartoon player, a cartoonist do this for me. That would have been fabulous. So I'm talking to a friend of mine who'd been at another conference in Mexico, fabulous Prophets Conference, a week long. We loved it. I mean, you form fabulous bonds over those longer periods. So if you see a Prophets Conference coming on that is in exotic places for 5 days, it is very worth to go. A totally amazing experience. So she was there, and we still email each other now, and I said, you know, I would have loved to have had somebody draw this. And she said, well, you know, she does it, but later on she said, you know, I have a friend here who draws for I don't watch television, what would I know? She draws for the cartoon that comes on before Simon's, that I've remembered. He does something fabulous, meaningful. Don, do you remember? King of the Hill. Yeah, is that something? King of the Hill, you know that? Cartoonist. So he came last night at 10 o'clock and drew me some pictures. Isn't this nice? So he had 2 meditating people, the spiraling effect and the unifying effect. We can do this with children. I do this with my niece over the phone. I call her up and I say, why don't we just meet inwardly? And we go shoot up in the star, meet there in outer space and inner space, and we become one. And that's the reason why she's so awesome. She can tap into cosmic consciousness at age 16 and knows answers. And so in my book, I write about how to do miracles, how to go and transform the darkness that we oftentimes carry, the contracted quantum thumb poles, you know, that are weighing us down like lead weights, and how to make them and turn them around into a white hole. And it's part of our courses that we teach, that we have on video, that I haven't written up in the book. And people who've read it have said they feel like they have a magic wand in their hands right now because of the techniques they're practicing. It's learning that we simply need to find the positive intent hidden and enfolded within everything. So part of the lecture was now, okay, some focus, a lot of different aspects of how our mind influences water, how we can clear lakes, how we can talk to our refrigerator in our car, and how we can co-create reality through our imagery. And the other part is, how do we deal with the dark sides? The darkness is only a flip side to the light side. That depending on how you look at things, there's always a positive intent. And in my book, you'll read about time travel experiences I did with that magic of time jumps that I was able to manifest through shifting negative experiences of anger, let's say, into a positive experience of being somewhere on time, where I literally shifted back the hour, the clock, from saying 1 o'clock to 50 minutes earlier, half an hour later, minutes later. It's like, did this really happen? So I'll be there signing books out there. I know you're going to do a yoga stretch, and we're a little bit over. Much more to say and share, but I really am grateful for you all putting out your energy and time to be here and to learn and to grow. I really appreciate it. Thank you.